Hey guys, what we doing? So we're back on another Swag Kage video, and I decided to go into an explaining video. And this one's called Explaining Tsukuyomi. Now, Tsukuyomi, from my understanding, is the technique that Itachi used on Kakashi that one time, where he takes him into the world of pain. And like, just stabs him, and it makes it feel like so many minutes is so many hours or something like that, isn't it? Thought it'd be cool to get like an in-depth, well, an analysis, an explanation, one could say, as to what it actually is and how it works. So, who better to check out than Swag Kage, the fountain of all Naruto knowledge. I love it. So anyway, let's get into this. Explaining Tsukuyomi.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Tsukuyomi here, and welcome to today's video, where we're going to be talking about the highly requested Tsukuyomi, one of the most powerful genjutsu in the entire series, and one of the Mangekyo Sharingan abilities of Itachi Uchiha. Now, despite the fact that I've gotten a lot of requests to cover Tsukuyomi in the past, the manga and anime actually do quite a good job explaining how this jutsu works on their own. Now, one thing that the manga does not directly state, as evidenced by the mass confusion about this ability, is that Tsukuyomi is not a jutsu that all Uchiha with the Mangekyo Sharingan have access to. A whole lot of people, as I have touched on in previous videos, seem to think that this is an ability that Sasuke possesses, that Madara possesses, that Obito and Kakashi possess, and no, Tsukuyomi can only be used by Itachi. As you can clearly see, Madara and Sasuke have both used generic Sharingan genjutsu in the past, and not Tsukuyomi. And plus, the manga does make it pretty evident that each person's Mangekyo Sharingan has access to completely different abilities. There are some rare exceptions, of course, like both Sasuke and Itachi being able to use Madara, but it's pretty strongly implied that Sasuke's other ability is Enton Kagetsuchi, which allows him to control and shape Amaterasu's flames. So yeah, we can safely dismiss the idea that anybody aside from Itachi that we know of can use Tsukuyomi. That's an absolute negative, 100%. Anyway, now that that's been cleared up, let's move on. Like many of the techniques exclusive to the Sharingan, Tsukuyomi's name draws from ancient Japanese folklore. Though its name translates to Moon Reader in English, it actually draws from the Shinto god of the moon, who is also named Tsukuyomi. Some people also consider Tsukuyomi to be the god of time, which ties in quite nicely with this jutsu's mechanics. Now, as for the mechanics themselves, they're pretty simple, actually. Since Tsukuyomi is a power tied to the Mangekyo Sharingan, it is an ocular genjutsu, and as a result, it requires eye contact with a target to be performed. Itachi cannot initiate Tsukuyomi by just pointing his finger at people like he can with many of his other genjutsu, though that's not a very difficult activation condition to fulfill, especially in cases where the person Itachi is fighting does not know about his ability to use Tsukuyomi. Now, after Itachi lands Tsukuyomi, I mean, it's pretty much fucking confirmed game over, dude. There's practically no way for a person to break out of Tsukuyomi, and while I can hear a bunch of you typing already, but Shuenkage, Sasuke broke out of Tsukuyomi in his battle with Itachi. That was because Itachi let him, pure and simple. Now, there are a few counters to Tsukuyomi present in the Naruto world that I'll explain in a bit, but assuming a person doesn't have access to any of these, I mean, rest in peace, dude. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Tsukuyomi is one of the most powerful genjutsu in the entire Naruto world. As a matter of fact, the only two directly stated to be stronger than it are Kodo Amatsukami and the Infinite Tsukuyomi, with Izanami being a debatable third one. While a person is under this jutsu's effects, Itachi is able to place them under an illusion entirely of his own creation. And while there are numerous genjutsu that can be broken out of simply by the target's awareness that they are under the effects of one, Tsukuyomi is not one of these. Most of the time, targets under Tsukuyomi's influence are well aware that they are under the effects of a genjutsu, but they simply can't do anything about it. Itachi's goal when affecting them with this jutsu is generally not to trick them, but instead to afflict them with so much psychological trauma that it physically damages them. Now, what makes Tsukuyomi in particular so powerful is that not only does Itachi have complete control over his target's perception of space, like many genjutsu users do, but additionally, he has total control over their perception of time as well. And this means that while a person may only actually be under the effects of the genjutsu for a few seconds in real time, they themselves may feel as if multiple days or even multiple years in some cases have passed. For example, when Itachi first used the jutsu on Kakashi in part 1, he made Kakashi feel as though he was trapped inside of a place called the Nightmare Realm for 72 hours, and furthermore, he was able to make it seem as though he was under complete control over how long it took for these 72 hours to pass. While in the Nightmare Realm, Kakashi was continuously stabbed by dozens of sword-wielding copies of
mental.
Itachi at once for all 72 of these hours, and as you can probably guess for yourself, the psychological trauma was enough to cause Kakashi to collapse and placed him in a coma that only Tsunade could force him out of. During the Uchiha
yeah, that's a
clan
lot to
massacre,
go
Itachi
through.
also used Tsukuyomi to place a girl who was in love with him named Izumi Uchiha under a genjutsu where she and Itachi ended up getting married, and she lived out the entire rest of her life in, well, the amount of time is written a bit strangely in the novel, but it is stated to be 1/100th of 1/1000th of 1/1,000,000th of a second, or in other words, 1/100 billionth of a second. 10 picoseconds. It's a really short amount of time. 10 picoseconds is how long it would take for light to travel about 3 millimeters. Now, I'm not even gonna bother getting into how ridiculous of a feat that is, but anyway, perceiving such a large amount of events and such a lengthy period of time in a pretty microscopic amount of time was enough to kill Izumi, which means that it's possible to use Tsukuyomi to kill people too.
That's
like
mad.
I said, if Itachi
I didn't realize
catches
you could
somebody
kill
with
people
this
with
jutsu, it's GG immediately. Now, I did mention earlier that there are a few hard counters to Tsukuyomi present in the world of Naruto, but I may have overstated that because there are only 2, and they're only available to people with pretty high tier abilities to begin with. The first was demonstrated by Kabuto after he'd attained Sage Mode, and in order to avoid being caught by Tsukuyomi, he just completely cut off his eyesight. He just made it to where he couldn't see at all. And now this is an option that most people don't have access to because of the fact that, well, most people don't have Sage Mode and need their eyes to see their surroundings. But I guess it is always possible to just avoid looking into Itachi's eyes. The only other stated method to counter Tsukuyomi is for a person to activate their Mangekyo Sharingan when Itachi attempts to cast it, but of course, this is only available to people with a Mangekyo Sharingan.
Yes, not many people out there, is there?
Pretty much any potential Mangekyo Sharingan users when he wiped out the Uchiha clan, that's not much of an issue for him. And now some of you may be wondering, well, what about perfect Jinchuriki? Can't they break out of Tsukuyomi? Nope. Naruto flat out tells B, hey man, you don't want to get caught in Itachi's genjutsu.
Yeah.
If so, it's game over. Don't look into his eyes. Pretty concrete evidence right there. One Jinchuriki to another. What does pose a much more real
Just
threat
letting
to
you know.
Itachi than the potential counters to Tsukuyomi is the immense amount of chakra it requires, and the fact that it deteriorates his vision just like all Mangekyo Sharingan abilities do. The amount of chakra that Tsukuyomi requires seems to be consistent regardless of the complexity of the illusion, as Itachi lost quite a bit of chakra even after trapping Sasuke in a pretty standard genjutsu with the use of Tsukuyomi. But generally the reason it takes up so much chakra is because of the potential that Itachi has to create some of the most complex illusions in pretty much like the whole world. I don't know too many other people who can cause somebody to live out the entirety of their life in 10 picoseconds. So, you know, that probably explains the huge chakra cost. And then, of course, the progressive blindness, that's self-explanatory. The more Itachi uses this jutsu, the more and more it will degrade his vision. Anyway, that about does it for this Tsukuyomi video. Thank you to everybody who requested that I covered this topic, because I like Tsukuyomi. I think it's a pretty fun genjutsu.
It's cool.
Probably my favorite, in all honesty. But anyway, that's beside the point. Thank you guys for watching the video all the way to the end. If you're
I had a wallet
sure
that had all that design on it
to get updates when I post new content, and maybe consider leaving a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Leave any ideas you have for future videos in the comments below. And until my next video, I'll talk to you later. Swaikage out. Bye.
Sweet. Do 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 do. That was cool. I didn't realise that like it was just specifically Itachi's like technique, even though obviously we've never seen anyone else use it. I thought it was like something that possibly someone else could use with the Mangekyo Sharingan, but no. Okay, if that's not the case, then fair enough. That just makes Itachi even more cooler. That was awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that story of like letting a woman that was in love with him live like a whole life of them being married and that within like a microsecond. That's crazy. So you could use it. I didn't realise you could actually kill people with it as well. I thought it was just something you just inflicted or psychologically hurt people with. That's crazy. Very, very cool. But yeah, that was awesome. I love it. It's actually like always been one of my favourites. Like, I just love like. Well, I was always like, oh, I love a good bad guy, and then it was like, oh, he's not a bad guy, but I still loved the motivation and everything that he did to help Sasuke. It was just so cool. So yeah. Oh, Swakagi's so good. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you have not already. leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys. Yes, all of you guys. Even you. Watching behind that person watching there. I see you. Next time.